Good morning. It's June 3, 5:28 p.m. This is Mark Yu.
And this is Wawi Santos.
Welcome to the Mark Yu and Wawi Show. We're both physical therapists practicing here in the United States, sharing our insights and experiences in the field of investing. So on this episode, Kuya Wawi, we will discuss what's up with Wall Street.
Food prices rising.
Right. And then, well, there are several topics that we will be discussing along with that. To begin with, I guess, yung inflation na sinasabi, Kuya Wawi.
Yes. Pagtaas ng mga prices. Mm-hmm.
So far, because of the economic reopening, sinasabi nga niya, people going back to work, earning more, they're spending more. There are news articles pertaining to food prices rising. So we see like for example, yung breakfast sinasabi nila, like yung milk, it's already up 12% in price since last year. Bread, it's up 31%. Coffee, amazingly, it's up 52% since last year.
O kailangan mag-invest na Starbucks.
Well, actually, that's a good point. No, if you want to get exposed to inflation, Kuya Wawi, you want to be investing in those consumer products. In particular, if you're going to buy Starbucks, though, I would say that this might be a hindrance for their profit. Kasi if they're buying coffee beans, tapos nag-increase yung coffee beans, that's their intake, that's their cost, and then they're going to sell their Starbucks coffee at the same price, baka maipit sila sa profitability, sa margin nila. So unless they increase their price as well, which would lead to another cycle, like a higher decaf or ano bang favorite coffee drink natin? Hindi ko alam.
Cappuccino. Baka tumabang na yung mga cappuccino natin pag ganyan.
Diluted na. Save some profit. Anyhow, ayun, the next thing that we have observed since our last broadcast last week is financial stocks are rising. Banks in particular have been increasing in stock price, which people think because with recovering economy, mas magpa-profit yung banks because people will start investing, loaning from the banks and all that.
Mm-hmm.
Like for example, I see this ETF. ETF is an exchange traded fund, which just means like it's a fund where people buy and that fund takes the investors' money and then they invest in specific stocks. So this ETF I'm looking at, its ticker or XLF. It's year to date, it's up 32% already. So 32% compared to the index S&P 500. 500 means S&P 500 means it's the top 500 largest companies in the US. So yung bank ETF or yung fund, it's up 32%, and then yung S&P 500 top 500 companies is just up 14%. So definitely lumalakas yung mga banks at this point of time. What do you think, Kuya Wawi?
Well, I think that's a natural thing. Kasi nga, mataas ang interest. So, kumikita sila. And a lot of people are buying stuff, right? And, and a lot of people are taking mortgage loans, car loans especially, di ba? Marami pang, tawag dito, money from the government. So they're spending it. And a lot of them are, there's news na nabasa ko, yung mga bata, ang tawag nila, revenge spending. So
revenge spending.
they're ready to get the revenge against the lockdown, and they can't wait to spend all this money they save. So watch out. Bigla na lang yan siguro.
Right. Sorry.
I think the credit card companies like MasterCard and Visa will profit from that.
Pretty much, I would agree. Yes, totally. Next point would be AMC. Ito na naman tayo sa AMC, Kuya Wawi.
Ano ba yan? Hindi na natatapos yan.
It's still going
Paulit-ulit
up.
na lang yan. Yeah, it keeps going on.
Uh-huh.
So can you see how much it went up yesterday?
Yesterday, it actually doubled. From $30, it went to $63. Tapos,
It
grabe.
doesn't matter anymore,
So right
right?
now, tinitingnan ko siya before the market opens. Ito na tayo sa pre-market. It's up another 20%, Kuya Wawi.
Wow.
20%. Ang nakikita ko pa rito yung volume na sinasabi. Sarami ng nag-i-invest sa i-invest, speculate. I think at this point you would call it speculation, whereby you're just hoping it will go higher and higher. It's no longer investing. This is gambling for me. What do you think, Kuya Wawi?
Yeah, I think it's gambling for me too. Because walang masyadong basis yan eh. Ang nagpupush lang is yung mga redditors, right?
Right.
So
Just for those who are, investing or speculating on this stock, this is not an investment advice, pero always take into consideration your taxes later on. If you held on to the stock for less than a day or a week or less than a year, you'll definitely paying a lot more for your tax rate kasi personal tax rate mo yan for any profits. You would like to, as much as possible, get into a stock and hold it for more than a year just to save on taxes. Pero it's up to you. Next thing, Kuya Wawi, Las Vegas is back, 100% capacity.
okay, ayos. So marami nang mapupuntahan ng mga tao.
Right.
So people are traveling again. So I got a chance to travel before Memorial Day.
Nice.
And so marami ng tao. My flight was full. I used American Airlines traveling to Virginia. So I'm pretty sure people are gonna be traveling on the next holiday. And how many of them will go to Vegas, right?
Right. And I see here na may report galing sa ABC that's saying more than 7 million people screened at US airports since last Thursday. This is the single highest day since nag-lockdown tayo March of last year. That's really good. Next thing is we're gonna talk about is the savings rates here in the US and also in the Philippines. Looks like we have it in counter reaction to the recovering economy. Looks like yung savings rate natin bumababa lalo, no? So
ano ba interest rate ngayon sa Pilipinas ng
I'm looking
sa
at
savings rate right now? Let's see.
Well, it says here it averages to 0.5% to 2.5%, Kuya Wawi. For example, the largest bank in the Philippines, BDO Optimum Savings Account, is 0.75%. 0.75% annually if you kept their money in the bank.
So is it trending down?
It is.
Are we gonna be like Europe? Na
think,
zero na?
Yun nga eh. So what's happening on this point of time is like banks are trying to lower the interest rate. That way people sort of like, encourage people to spend money instead of saving, or at least put it into investing on elsewhere. I think over time, if they're gonna push for more spending, because that's how they generate money compared to just gaining savings accounts, I think they will keep it low. Pero yun nga, bumababa nga ang savings. Actually, in our messenger group, Kuya Wawi, I think we talked about Philippine banks experiencing high non-performing loans as well in terms of risk.
Oh yes. Maraming may utang na hindi mabayaran. They can't pay their loans.
Yeah, but in contrary to that, banks are still lowering their savings rate, encouraging people to spend. Probably siguro gusto nila reactivate, like what you said earlier, revenge spending sa Philippines naman this time.
Yeah, so Philippines is still struggling with poor implementation of their vaccination.
Right.
So, I talked to a friend of mine and he said, coming from the Philippines, he was coming from the Philippines. He said that baka 2022 pa daw bago mag-normalize.
Tagal pa.
O sabi ko, naku, matagal pa pala to.
So yeah, I'm actually looking at the stock prices of the banks there in the Philippines in the first quarter. Quarter means like 3 months, because in a year, 12 months, right? So for our listeners, quarter means divide by 4. So that's 3 months. So actually in a year, there are 4 quarters. So in the first quarter, January to March, yung stock price ng mga banks, hindi sila actually all in tandem in comparison to the stocks, the bank stocks here in the US. Like I said earlier, it's the bank stocks in general here in the US, in that specific fund that I mentioned, the XLF fund, is up 32%. Pero dun sa Philippines, only 3 banks ang higher in stock price. Those banks are Philippine Bank of Communications, up 8%, Philippine Savings Bank, up 3%, and BPI, up 0.2%, halos flat. Tapos the rest, it's actually flat or lower. The worst performing bank in the Philippines in terms of stock price is East West Banking. Negative. Well, actually, let me correct that. The worst performing stock price of banks in the Philippines is Philippine Trust Company or Corporation. It's down negative 20% so far in the first 3 quarters. For those who are interested, BDO actually is down 5%, Security Bank down 10%. Yun yung mga big banks, I guess, of Philippines. All right. So next topic will be our reopening play, Kuya Wawi, I guess. Yung Zoom communications, which zoomed up during lockdown because people are just using Zoom. Like right now.
Yeah, I like Zoom.
Yeah.
But I'm not invested in Zoom. Right now, Zoom is at $327 per share.
Right. And it's since February, it peaked in February, and up to now it's down 26%. Sabi nga nila, people are going back to work, so hindi na nila kailangan actually mag-Zoom calls. Pero there are still market for it, I guess.
Yeah, I think opinion ko lang to. I think it's a good company, and I think work from home is here to stay. Maybe not as a massive scale like we had during COVID-19, but this technology opened up some avenues for a company to save some money by letting some of their workers stay at home to work.
Right. So yung Zoom so far this year, from January 1st to yesterday, it's down 9%. Tapos let's just say, kumuha tayo ng comparison, reopening play, since we're talking about Vegas opening 100%, I'm looking at Las Vegas Sands. The largest, like one of the largest, let's say, resort or casino play sa Las Vegas. It's up by 2%, meager 2% so far this year, in comparison to Zoom, which is down 9%. So somehow, sabi ng reopening play, like you invest in those stocks that are, more exposed to company reopening rather than stay at home. It makes a little sense, I guess, in this comparison, Zoom versus Las Vegas Sands.
How about yung mga movie houses, right? We're talking about AMC a while ago.
Well, there's no comparison to AMC. AMC, bananas.
95% yesterday.
Just one day. Tapos
one day.
Gusto, Kuya Wawi, tinitingnan ko yung 1 year niya. Since January 1st, AMC Theaters or AMC Entertainment Holdings, ticker AMC, is up 3,011.9%.
Woo! Grabe.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, skyrocketing. Watch out when it falls.
Sabi nga nila, hindi na siya bear or bull, ape na siya. Kasi yung kuba ng ape, diretso pataas ba? Medyo pataas pa rin, pero kuba ng konti. Rocket ship pa rin. So the next one is global stocks, Kuya Wawi, in terms of valuation, it has reached $120 trillion globally. Lahat ng stock.
Wow. Mhm.
So there's a graph actually we would like to share. Later on, we will forward it to you if you send us an email, or you could go to my website. Later on, we'll plug it, I guess. And some feedback, Kuya Wawi, sa listeners.
Okay.
One said that they like our show. Thank you for that. And you know who you are. He said na informative siya, inspiring, and they would also like to hear us our input in terms of cryptocurrency like Bitcoin. Yeah, specialty mo yan, Kuya Wawi.
Yes.
Cryptocurrencies.
So yeah, we can talk about that next week. What's going on in the cryptocurrency market? Um, so kung millennial ka, medyo madali mong maintindihan kasi to kasi you're uh, ano ka eh, techie ka na eh. You're in the using the computer, and you know you're more aware of yung digital currency, because when we were younger we didn't use any digital currency, we use paper money.
Right.
But you know, as a father, you know, my kids use credit cards, they use their phone to pay, so they don't even have to hold physical money to make transactions now. So I think that's why cryptocurrency makes sense to a lot of this younger generation.
So do you think, Kuya Wawi, it's some sort of like you can see it definitely in the future, people using it for transaction, or you think it would still be a hindrance, like the government trying to, like I think Jay Powell, the chairman of Federal Reserve, he actually mentioned na gusto nilang gumawa na sarili ng crypto. So what do you think
Yeah.
about that?
Yeah, I think the central government is trying to come up. Actually, the United States is studying some feasibility studies and talking to some experts about central bank digital currency, just like what China did with
Yeah,
their
actually, yun yung
yuan.
narinig ko, Central Bank Digital, CBDC. Now, that would be
Yes.
interesting, Kuya Wawi. Would you buy the Bitcoin, I mean, the coin CBDC?
Well, I think, you know, if they come up with one, we'll probably be holding it.
Right.
Ang ginawa kasi nila sa China, what they did in China is they rolled it out and they sent the CBDCs to their citizens.
Talaga? Parang dinistribute lang nila, no?
Dinistribute lang nila, yeah, they
Uh,
distributed it.
well,
Um,
that's really something to look forward to in our upcoming episodes. We're gonna tackle cryptocurrencies definitely. So
yes.
moving on to our next topic, Kuya Wawi, main topic, I guess, how to determine how much you should invest. Let's say, for example, in the stock market.
So depende yan sa ano mo eh, sa risk tolerance. You know, what is your risk tolerance, and what timeline you have. Most people invest for retirement,
Right.
so you have to look at your timeline to see how much you should invest. If you're like in your 20s, then like you, right, you got a long time horizon, so you can factor that in. You may not have to do any catch up investing like some 50-year-olds are doing.
Right.
You can invest $500 a month, right, and wait for it to compound. And you know, some people say that by 30 years that
Right.
$500 a month would be like 750,000 or 750K, you know, conservative estimate.
Right.
So
Well, yung nga eh, parang may nagtanong sa akin recently din eh, parang how do I start? I earn a lot of money, not saying indirectly, pero I earn a lot because marami siyang racket, ganon. She works on weekends and all that. She has all this savings, pero hindi niya alam siya mag-start or how much she should allocate. Pero to begin with, I would say na, like looking back when I started, actually I started with $150 in what after opening a brokerage account. And then from there, I just started giving a little bit each month, like making it consistently. As long as it's like within your risk tolerance. Sabi nga ni Kuya Wawi, over time, it'll slowly build up. If you guys listen to our previous podcast, our like finance word of the day, which we would have again today later on, before we end this podcast, is the compounding. So over time, when you start a little bit, just throw a little bit every month, make it grow. As long as you don't engage in very risky trades, like nangyayari na ngayon sa AMC, perfect example. We slowly but surely, as long as you're buying the companies that are really good with their management of money, in particular, which we would slowly dissect in our upcoming podcast. I think it should grow over time, like what I experienced for the past 6-7 years investing here in the US.
Mhm.
Likewise, like there are, as sabi nga ni Kuya Awi, when you're young, you can actually risk more. Um, when you're older, you don't want to be
Yes.
putting all your eggs in one basket. Kasi the purpose is you want to start young, but you can slowly build your nest egg. Like I said in the first podcast, average stock index return for the past 100 plus years is 6 to 7% annually.
Yes,
So,
that's a good point, Mark,
mhm,
because you have to look at the current inflation rate.
mhm,
Currently we're a bit above 2%, and you have to think about things that go up in price over time. Right
right,
now, if you look at historically, pag yung 1 gallon nung 1995 is $1.14, and
mhm,
then a gallon of gas in 2020 last year was $2.21.
mhm,
And now they're predicting that gas prices, if we're still using ICE vehicles or internal combustion engines,
right.
gas prices by 2045 is going to be $4.10. So you
Oh,
have to factor in inflation to your investment, because
exactly.
if you're just putting it in the bank, you're
Mhm.
not gonna match the inflation.
Oh,
Another example, okay,
actually, yeah.
um, cars, right? So
Yeah.
gas, so attached to cars, ICE cars. Cost of a average car in 95 was 19,000.
$19,000. My
Last, yeah,
brand new.
brand new. And then, magandang kotse na yon. Siguro mga Camry na yon
Oh,
ng
maganda.
95.
Camry. Yeah, that's a good car. Quality car.
Last year, 37K. By 2045, average car price would be around 68,600. So
Oh
something to
my.
think about.
Exactly. I didn't know that. So parang kapresyo na ng model, ano ba yung Model X ng Tesla. 68 Camry. Ang mahal.
Yes, by the time of 2045. And
Wow.
then healthcare
Ay, isa pa. Yes.
usually every year, right? Every year it's double than the inflation.
Mhm.
So you got to think about that.
Exactly.
Uh, so
Prepare
you
for the
have,
future. Mhm.
yes, prepare for healthcare, because it would be approximately 15% of your retirement expense, by the time you retire.
Wow. That's
I,
definitely good information, Kuya Wawi.
yeah,
So,
so
mhm,
that answers some of the questions. It's not, you know, uh, about how much you put in, kasi yun depende sa income mo yun eh.
mhm.
But you have to factor in, okay, what are my expenses going to be in the future?
Right. I definitely understand. Yeah. Definitely agree, Kuya Wawi. That makes me more eager to invest, definitely. So, going back to like the stock price, katulad ng ina-advocate namin ni Kuya Wawi, you can either choose the way you invest. It's either you want to invest in an ETF or mutual fund or specific stocks. Akin per se, my preference is to buy a specific stock. This is because I feel like you are more exposed to the market, more skin in the game. You probably because of that, more risk, more reward. So you gain whatever gain that stock achieves, you gain it 100%. Whereas if you put your money in a fund, limited din yung gains niya. Pero one good side of it is also limited din yung downside. So, for example, let's go into specifics. I would say Apple. This is not an investment advice, pero Apple, let's say bumili ka ng Apple since 5 years ago. So, if you invested in Apple stock 5 years ago, um, you would have gained 411% until yesterday. 411%. That's quadrupling your money. Whereas if you chose to play it safe, you probably invested in the S&P 500 index, which is the top 500 companies. You would have gained 101%. So just double your money. So instead of quadrupling your money in your Apple, meron kang you double your money at least in S&P 500. That's the big difference in terms of buying a specific company or sticking with in an index fund.
Yes, that's a good point, Mark. So speaking of these big companies, Amazon, for example, if you invested $1,000 in Amazon last year, you would have had close to like $1,700.
Wow, $700
this year. That's how big it grew last year.
Wow.
Yeah. So, are we at the
Sure.
still talking of stocks for the week?
Yes, our next segment is stock of the week, Kuya Wawi. What is your pick for stock of the week?
Well, since I mentioned Amazon, Amazon is my stock of the week.
Perfect.
Yeah, so one thing I want to share with our viewers is, okay, if you're looking at Amazon as the store, right, you're just looking at the small picture. So they say that Amazon's revenue, 12% of it comes from the cloud, their cloud business, AWS.
Okay.
12%, yeah, for their store, for Amazon.com. But if you look at Amazon as the company, okay, and this is, I just found out from an expert this weekend, talking to an expert who's who knows more about Amazon. Actually, Amazon's cloud business is 94% of their business. 94%. So, yeah, so let me see if I can share my screen. These are their okay, well, I can't share it right now, but if you go to AWS Amazon.com and look at their global infrastructure, you would see that all these data centers are all over the world. May South America, they're in of course, the United States, Europe, Argentina.
What I think of this in Amazon Web Services is actually Netflix is one of their clients. So, for example, Netflix produces a lot of movies and they need to store it somewhere in the cloud para yung mga, let's say, yung mga taga-Pinas, para ma-access nila yung movies easily, they actually sign up for Amazon Web Services para yung library of movies na gigabytes of data pwede mag-stream in an instant. Is that correct, Kuya Wawi?
Yes, so they streamline the online infrastructure of different businesses to provide streaming media and also provide turnkey solutions for people that are trying to get in the online commerce sector. So pag pumasok ka sa cloud, you have all these features of different pricing structures to get your business online. So I'm thinking you're really not in a global business unless you're in the cloud. So if you want to capture a larger scale of customers, you have to be in the cloud. And Amazon has probably one of the most competitive pricing for getting into the cloud. You know why? You know why?
Why is that?
I just found out that Amazon owns their own data centers. So some other companies, they would lease cloud solutions in uh, other data centers, private or public data centers. But Amazon owns their own data center
Sa
and
kanila
is
mismo yung
huge.
expenses. Wow.
And so they can price more competitively, mas mura.
Got it. So Kuya Wawi, looking at Amazon closely, itong inopen ko is SEC filing nila, Securities and Exchange Commission filing. I pulled it up right now, just now. I'm
Mhm.
looking at their performance for the first quarter, January to March 31st, 2020. Sabi mo nga, di ba, they are a store as well as they also have 96% of their business sa AWS or web services. So get this, yung online sales nila, 46 plus 19, that's 66 billion in revenue. Pero
Mhm.
yung profit is net expenses after all they paid their cost and maintenance ng fulfillment centers nila. Pumapalo lang ng 900 million. Pero
Mhm.
looking at their AWS or Amazon Web Services, their sales for just 3 months is 10.2 billion. Tapos, after yung profitad nila dun sa 10.2 na yun is 3.1 billion. So, ang laki ng profitad nila, 30%. So, I
Mhm.
would say that definitely supports the majority of their business. Kasi after all their expenses sa online nila, yung Amazon.com, pag 2-day shipping, yung nakokolekta nilang profit na hindi gaano kalaki. As in, almost
Yes.
negative.
Mhm.
Yung international nila na fulfillment actually delivered at a 400 million loss. So, hindi sila
Mhm.
kumikita gaano dun sa Amazon store nila, which is surprising. Wow. I guess after
And
yung 2-day shipping nila, no, madami rin nagre-return.
yeah. Well, you gotta look at their subscription too. Kung
Ayun,
gaano karami nagsusubscribe sa Prime. So
mm,
there's a lot of Prime subscribers. And
that's
like I said, their main market is the cloud.
yeah.
That's
So
where they get their revenue.
yeah. Speaking of subscription, for the first 3 months of this year, they earned 5.6 billion just in the subscription services alone, which is not bad. I mean, laki nun. Pero yun nga,
Yes.
yung pinaka juice nila or profit making nila is yung AWS.
Yes. And they're going into the pharmacy market.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, they're going into the telemedicine market. So they're pushing their boundaries.
They're pushing
Such
it.
a big company.
Mhm. Talaga nag-expand sila relentlessly. Alam ko sabi ni Bezos be relentless. Si Jeff Bezos.
Yes. And you can see it in this company. So that's my stock of the week, Mark.
Alrighty. Okay. So, well, ano natin? Finance word of the day, I guess. Kaya Wawi. Next time, eh.
Word of the day? Is
Yes.
that what you say? Oh, okay. Well, I'm
Finance
still
word of the day.
still gonna go from this book. Okay.
Mhm.
So this is from Jonathan Sachs.
Oh, this is
Makes
quote of the day, I guess.
Yeah, this is our quote for the day.
Uh-huh.
So make space in your life for the things that matter,
Mhm.
for family and friends, love and generosity, fun and joy. Without this, you will burn out in mid-career and wonder where your life went.
Papaulit na ko yung para mag-gets ko.
Okay, ulitin natin. Kasi, okay, so there's a lot of different wealth, right? So happiness is wealth.
Mhm.
So this is from Jonathan Sachs. Make space in your life for the things that matter, ano
Okay.
yung importante, for family and friends, love and generosity, fun and joy. Without this, you will burn out in mid-career and wonder where your life went,
Mhm.
right? So always spend time, on things and people that make you happy,
Right.
so you won't burn out.
Exactly. Make time for other things, not just, pure work, pure walang todo kaya.
Yes. Yeah, play then. Play. Gotta play.
Right. Work hard, play hard.
Work hard, play hard. Yes. Yes.
All right.
Mhm.
Well, I guess that'll do it for this today's podcast.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Kuya, for your time, and thank you to our listeners. Please support us by subscribing. We are up in YouTube and Spotify and Google Podcasts. Thank you so much. You guys
Thank
have a
you.
great week ahead.
Have a good day. Happy investing.